Pistol formation this time. Handoff goes to Ian Christine. Christine looking to break. Breaks free at the 20, 15, using the speed of the 5. Touchdown, far sideline for Ian Christine. Taking it in from 27 yards out and putting the East on the board for the first time today.
3rd and 11. 36-26, D1 West. Pass, tipped over, hook and lateral, and it's wide open. Burke gives it to Keith near sideline, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Oh, the D1 West goes into their bag of tricks, and they pull out some magic on the hook and lateral, and it is a 56-yard touchdown for the D1 West. A quick pass to Burke. He flips it to Keith, and he had nowhere to go but straight forward down the sideline to pay dirt.
Couple of exciting plays that took place in the 8-Man All-Star Games, the 39th annual 8-Man All-Star Games on Saturday at Trojan Field in Beloit as the West wins both games. D2 West winning the late game 28-14. D1 West winning the first game 50-42. Welcome to the Sports Ticket, brought to you by Kiever Brothers Automotive in Beloit, your home for fast, friendly auto repair. Coming up on the show, a local athlete is a track and field All-American. K-State's baseball season comes to an end. The Royals had a very exciting series with the Seattle Mariners. The Celtics in control of the NBA Finals. A college coach who could shake up this landscape of college men's basketball with his decision today. Caitlin Clark loses off the court for the first time in quite some time. We'll explain that. NHL Stanley Cup Finals. The French Open is in the books. And the number one golfer in the world continues to prove that there's nobody even that should be considered second. He's that far better than everybody else. That's all coming up on the ticket. But first, we recap the 8-Man All-Star Games. And, Dusty, it was a good day. The weather was pretty nice. And two competitive, pretty close ball games. Both were distinctly different from each other, but the West victorious in both.
Yes, we'll go through. I'm not going to go through like a whole scoring summary or anything like that. You can find the complete recaps for all the 8-Man All-Star games, both the Division I and Division II game at 8manallstars.com. So, and you can listen to our sportscast today for a more in-depth recap of what happened over the weekend. But yeah, the D1 game went to the West 50-42. Wade and Todd had the call on that one, and boy, it was a back and forth game, and had a few guys that really stood out in the game, and in the end, it was a great day for Caden Morgan, the quarterback from La Crosse for the West squad, as he threw for 387 yards and 5 touchdowns to lead the West. And Brock Keith was his favorite target with 5 catches for 153 yards, 3 touchdowns. Trace Kinner-Connect of Quinter had 119 yards on 9 catches with a touchdown as well. And the West got out to, there was a safety to start the game. They led 2-0, then 8-0. It was 12-8 after 1. The East had taken the lead after Jace Wunderlich, the Central Burden quarterback, started off a great day with 2 touchdown runs and a lot of scoring in the second quarter, but the West was able to take a 28-26 lead into halftime. They expanded that lead out to 42-26 after 3, but the East didn't go away, got back within 42-34, and then the West scored again to make it 48-34, but the East got back in 48-42, and then on the final drive there, the East kind of fumbled the snap into the end zone, and the West jumped on top of it for a safety to end the scoring as well. It's kind of rare to have a 8-man All-Star game start scoring with a safety and end scoring with a safety, but that's what happened. 50-42 the final game. Morgan was outstanding for the West squad. We talked about Wunderlich, the Central Burden quarterback. He racked up 409 yards of total offense for the East, threw for 237 and ran for another 172 on the ground. He combined for 6 total touchdowns as well. Just an outstanding day for Jace Wunderlich there for the East squad in the Division I game. Again, the West winning it by a final of 50-42. The Division II game followed in the afternoon. 2 teams were held out of the end zone in the first quarter, but the West squad had a couple touchdowns from Eli Lang on a receiving touchdown on a shovel pass from Hodgman County quarterback Owen Reese, and also a rushing touchdown, leading 14-0 at half. The West struck first in the second half as well, and another touchdown run from Lang. The East got their first score, as you heard there on the touchdown run by Ian Christine. It's got the lead out to 22-6 midway through the third quarter there, but man, it was just mostly West, but the East, they scored very early in the fourth quarter to make it respectable. They had gotten a stop and got that first touchdown, and then got another stop. They scored again to cut the lead to 22-14. Touchdown pass from Doak Guttery to Grady Bussing and Axtell to cut that lead to 22-14. But Reese found Lang again on the first play of the next drive, 49-yard touchdown pass to put the East up, or the West up, 28-14. Eli Lang and Mineola scored all 4 touchdowns on the day. Reese finished with 236 yards, 2 touchdowns passing. Most of that was on the shovel pass. Just quick jet sweep shovels that were working pretty much all day, very, very much so in the first half. Mason Baker of Thunder Ridge had 113 yards receiving. Lang totaled 104 yards, again, scored all the touchdowns. Ian Christine was a standout for the East squad. He ran for 150 yards, 12 carries with that touchdown. As we mentioned, again, the West winning the D2 game 28-14. So look at what happened in the 8-man All-Star games. Again, if you missed any of the coverage, you can find all the recaps at 8manallstars.com. If anybody's out there that would like audio copies of the game, just let us know. You can call us at the station at 545-3220. Contact me on any of the socials, or if you have my phone number, you can text as well. Anybody that might want a copy of the games on the audio, we'd be glad to give you the details on how you can get that. So it was a great week, a lot of outstanding athletes, and they were very, very well-spoken in their interviews, and it was just fun to be around those 80 guys like it always is. Just a great representation of 8-man football in the state of Kansas right there in Beloit, and it's always special for Beloit to have that and for us to be a part of that as well. So, 8manallstars.com would be where to go for the recaps from Saturday.
And a big thank you to all the people behind the scenes
Absolutely.
that made it all possible throughout the week, hosting the players at NCK Tech, and then getting them transported where they needed to go for activities, for practice, and the movies and tours and all of that. And then, of course, the games themselves on Saturday. You know, when it's funny because if people listen to the games on Saturday, you know that there were two calls in the game that were just wrong in regards to the officiating. And the reason I bring this up is not to be critical of the officials, because they're a young group of officials that did a pretty good job. And we need young people to be officiating. So I'm not going to sit here and rail on the officials because, one, they're doing an exhibition game or games. They did both games, and that's a long day, and they did a really nice job. And one things that you hear from coaches is you just want officials to be consistent. And one thing I will say, they were consistent.
Yeah.
The problem was they were consistently wrong on one particular call, and that was when they're a little pitch, toss forward, shovel pass, whatever you want to call it. And if you don't, let me explain what the play is. Usually it is a player coming in motion. If you watch Chiefs football, if you watch college football on a Saturday, KU's done it. I'm sure K-State's done it. I think every team's probably done it. NFL games, you watch the Chiefs, they do it a lot. McCole Hardman, Kadarius Toney, well, probably not. He drops it all the time. But then it's incomplete, or at least it's supposed to be. Tyreek Hill.
Jarek McKinnon ran it quite a bit, too, just in different spots.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill was kind of the first one I remember the Chiefs really using it with. And it's just a simple pitch from the quarterback to the player in motion. And he comes across, and you just literally pitch it to him about like a foot away. And if the ball hits the ground, it's an incomplete forward pass. But what people always do, the crowd, they gasp and they think it's a fumble, and the players honestly hurry to jump on the ball too, as if it is a fumble. But it's simply an incomplete pass, a shovel pass, a little touch pass off if Mahomes catches it and just two hands it forward like a loaf of bread, as long as he pitches it forward, even if it's 6 inches, that's a pass. That's a forward pass.
1 inch.
Exactly, 1 inch. That's all it's got to be.
If it leaves his hands
and it's forward
to the next person,
and it's forward,
exactly,
it is a forward pass. If there is a gap between his hands and the other player's hands going forward, so Mahomes is in the gun or the pistol, and Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, whoever it is, comes in motion, and you just slightly flip it to him as he comes in motion, and the ball hits the ground, that's an incomplete pass. It's incomplete. But in the 8-man All-Star games, that is not true, because it happened in the first game, and it was a big play that allowed the East to stay in it. And in the second game, it was huge. It stopped the West from scoring inside the 5. And both those plays are passes. And they should have been ruled incomplete. And then we thought when the officials got together that they would correct it and get it right. And then what was crazy was they had the same situation in the second game. And here's your chance at total. It's the old line from Dumb and Dumber. And then you totally redeem yourself. And no, they didn't. They got it wrong again. But they were consistent.
Yeah,
they were consistent. But unfortunately, it wasn't the right call. So I'm not sitting here trying to rail on the officials from that standpoint. I think it's kind of a little bit funny and ironic that it happened once each game, and both times they were consistently called a particular way. It's just that they should have been called fumbles. Should have been called incomplete passes, but they were ruled fumbles, and they killed drives for teams. But luckily, the West still won both games, so it didn't impact the game at the end of the day, luckily. If anything else, the officials are on the take to keep the game close. That's probably what was going on. So I appreciate the officials, and I love the youth, the younger people getting involved in officiating, and really do sincerely say this with all sincerity, that they did a good job, and really appreciate them. I told them after the game, I was walking onto the field to do interviews after the second game, hey, thank you for reffing, because it's one thing I'm trying to do, like in any sporting event that I'm tied to, even as a parent, whether it's a media person, a coach, is I try to remember. Sometimes they head off the field too soon and I can't say nothing, but I try to remember, hey, thank you for doing that. Thank you. Because listen, we weren't 100% perfect in the booth on Saturday either. So nobody was perfect, but it was a really good day. It was almost a perfect day in regards to the weather and everything else. And I'll bet you, and now I'm not trying to throw Don Melby under the bus, but I don't know yet. So I don't know. But Don, if you're listening, Don is an old run first, power the ball into the line of scrimmage, break some tackles. He's old school to an extent, okay? Running the football a lot at Pike Valley. He had guys run it 40 times in games. And I wouldn't be surprised that Don called about 25 of those passes in the second game, or so it seemed, as runs. And the stats that he has are going to be completely different than ours. But no offense to Don, but if he does go with runs, he will be wrong on that, because those are passes. If it's anything moving forward, it's a pass. You see this a lot of times. There'll be a swing pass, okay, to a running back out of the backfield. And if the running back goes behind the quarterback and the quarterback throws the pass, but it's behind the line of scrimmage, what a lot of people do, and once again, they don't understand, they automatically call that passing yardage. It is not passing yardage. Just because Patrick Mahomes throws the ball overhead instead of pitching it like it's a pitch play to a running back, if he still throws the ball behind himself, that is a lateral. If it is a lateral going backwards, that is a run. So even if Mahomes turns and has his back to the defense and heaves it the other end of the field, and it's caught by Kadarius Toney at his own 5, and then Kadarius catches the ball and goes back the other way and scores a touchdown, that's a run. That is not a pass, because it is a pass backwards, but it's not labeled as a pass. It is rushing yardage, okay? That is a rushing attempt for Kadarius Toney, okay? It is not a passing attempt. And so you see this all the time in the statistics. The tough one is when the ball is pitched or thrown on a swing pass and the running back looks like he's absolutely parallel to the quarterback. Then it's just kind of like 50-50. Let's call it a run. Let's call it a pass. Hey, let's pad Mahomes' statistics. Let's give him some passing yardage. Or, hey, this guy's close to 100 yards. Let's call it a run. I think that happens quite a bit. But when it's clearly behind the line of script, behind the player that's pitching the ball, that is a run. And clearly, when the ball is moved forward, like you said, 1 inch, 6 inches, 12 inches, whether you underhand it, whether you flick it with the right hand or the left hand, whether you slingshot it, whether it's a quick dart, it does not matter how you deliver the ball out of your hands to the person coming in motion or whatever. As long as that ball is going forward and leaves your hands, and there's separation between the ball in your hands and the guy you're flipping the ball to, and the ball hits the ground, that's incomplete. And it goes down as an incomplete pass for the quarterback. Now, it's a pretty nice thing to do to pad your statistics as a quarterback when Owen Reese in the second game was 18-21 at halftime, and I bet he was 12 for 12 on little shovel passes that all went half a yard. Yeah. He threw half a yard, and then these guys go get 18 yards. I joke, Dusty, Todd, and I could have completed 12 out of we might have made one bad little toss. 12 out of 13. So those stats are a little bit misleading in regards to passing and rushing, but that is the accurate way to stat them. So I'll be very interested to see how Don Melby did. Don, if you're listening, I'm putting you on the spot, my man. But anything that is forward is a pass. Even if it doesn't look like a conventional pass, it's a pass. Even a swing pass that is behind the quarterback 2 yards and he swings it, people are like, well, that's a pass. No. If it is not going forward, thus it is a rushing attempt. So there are some people that maybe don't know those things. We're being educational to help. And perhaps the young officials maybe didn't know that either, which is amazing to me because I would hope they watch a lot of football on Saturdays and Sundays, and I really thought they would get that right. But if that's the worst thing to happen on Saturday, it's all good. But I pointed it out because I've never seen it called that way. Eventually they get it right, and we saw a lot of those little tiny shovels in the game, especially the second one.
Well, there was a couple times where actually they did hand it off, and it was a run play, but most of the time that ball was leaving Reese's hands, and it was, in my game anyway, in the second game, and it was leaving his hands, and it was a pass for sure. And these two things that we're talking about, whether it's a pass or if you throw the backwards lateral and it's a run, they come into play. We're talking about how you stat that. And how we take care of that on our end. But most of those things and issues are coming into play, when the ball ends up on the ground. And so, you'll see it during the NFL or college if you're watching somebody that they're running replays to make sure that this ball did indeed go backwards. If there was a team that picked up the ball when it ended up on the ground, the forward shovel usually doesn't have to go to replay at the next levels.
No.
Let's just put it that way. At the college and NFL level, it's pretty quickly the officials are in there saying, no, that was a shovel pass. It's incomplete. There's no fumble recovery here. It's second down. It's third down. Whatever down it was, you just move on to the next down and you play. So that one doesn't really get reviewed very much because the officials are pretty usually on top of that. As far as the shovel pass being incomplete if it goes forward. But you do have to have some reviews sometimes on those passes that go either perpendicular to the line or if they're backwards and see if it's indeed a fumble or not. But, those are when those kind of things come into play, really, when people actually start talking about them. People will talk about the shovel pass because they complain that Patrick Mahomes, the haters, because he gets too many yards based on shovel passes. And it's like, whatever, dude. Get some better players on your team. Maybe you can do it, too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right.
So, it's interesting to some of the nuances there of how you score that and how you stat it out and how things can be, affected by how those plays are called.
I've said this many times on this show and on Waterside Wake Up. The three inevitables, the three things that are going to happen, whether you like it or not, are death, taxes, and change. And taxes shouldn't be always, but they are. But death, we're all going to die. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer. And there's always going to be change. Whether you want change or not, you're going to have to deal with change. Whether you go to the grocery store, whether the football team start throwing the ball more than they run the football, and old school's like, why don't we run the ball 73 times? They threw it 62. That's too many. Okay, well, running the ball 73 might be too many. It's just a different game. The games, the sports evolve. And the rules change. We've seen that in baseball. I hate having a runner at second to start an extra inning game like they did yesterday. I hate it. I forget about it half the time. I don't like it. But it does, I understand the concept of it, and it makes sense, but I don't like it. But it doesn't matter whether I like it or not. It happened. It's inevitable. Change is going to happen. And if you don't adapt, it's going to pass you by. So if you are an old fuddy-duddy statistician and you're like, well, that's just a cheap way of getting passing yards, so I'm not going to score it that way. Well, then you need to quit doing what you're doing and get fired because you're not doing it the way it's supposed to be done. And so there's people that get paid good money to be statisticians at the NFL, college level, so forth and so on. Usually your high school people are volunteers, so forth and so on. So they're like, sir, go ahead and fire me. I'm a volunteer. Find somebody else who can do this thing. But if you are selfishly against change and so thus you don't do things the right way because you're against change, well, you're standing in the way of progress at the same time. So there's the message there. But there was a great day, no doubt, for the 8-Man All-Star Games, and I appreciate everybody and everything that they all did. Too many names to mention. And we had a good time at the pep rally. That went really well. We had people from Arizona, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Minnesota. I mean, it was a great turnout for the pep rally. We had a great time, and the weather was really nice as well. Hey, on Friday night, I happened to get back after the pep rally and watch this, and it's pretty cool. And my buddy BP, Brady Pollin's dad, Byron, he had told me that last week that, Brady was going to the Nationals there in Oregon again this year, and that in order to be an All-American, he had to be in the top 8. And Byron told me the top 4 are going to be tough to beat. He said, but it's wide open after that. So I tuned in. I remembered it when I got back from the pep rally, so I was watching a little bit. And Brady was in 7th place, and then he was in 8th place. And it was pretty simple. If Brady could make 7.2 1/4 or whatever it was, 7.2 1/2, he cleared 7.1 1/2, I believe it was. And so if he cleared the next height, he was definitely going to be All-American. but he also had the least amount of misses out of the three guys that were left trying to clear that height. And so I'm sitting there going, oh, I told my wife, she was watching on my phone too. I said, if Brady misses his next two attempts and these other two miss their next two attempts, Brady will be 8th and an All-American. Difference is one less miss on a high jump height. And so the Texas Tech guy was going, and I'm like, oh, he don't clear it. And he didn't. And I immediately like, yeah, Brady's an first team All-American. Not bad for a kid from Beloit, Kansas, went to St. John's Tipton, of course, and he was, a very good athlete, but tall and lanky is pretty much what all these guys look like when they do the high jump. And Brady to he was honorable mention All-American last year. He is now All-American this year, second highest ever in Wichita State history, his finish. You can learn more at GoShockers.com, but 7-1.5, finished in 8th place at the National Track and Field Championships D1. He was going up against Tyus Wilson of Nebraska, who's from Sterling, Devin Loudermilk, who's at the University of Kansas. Pretty crazy. 3 of the top 8 high jumpers in America are Kansas kids.
From small towns.
From small towns.
Yeah, it was
Loudermilk
from West Elk.
West Elk, right.
Yeah.
And he had an older brother that played in the NFL for the Steelers.
Yeah.
So... And Tyus Wilson barely became All-American. He had hit his final height.
Yeah.
And then he hit the next height on his first try. And then he was in control. And then Beckford went off for 7.5 and ended up getting the first place in the national championship. So 3 of the top 8 jumpers in the country in D1 are from small towns in Kansas. How crazy is that?
Completely crazy when you think about
That's
it.
38%.
Sterling, Howard, and Beloit
That's
had
insane.
3 of the top 8 in the entire country in high jump.
Think about that for a second. If they all compete in state track and field championships, one of them would finish 3rd. But they'd be 8th in the
they
country.
Were in the same class, yeah, for sure.
That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. So congratulations, Brady. Well deserved. Coming up in 30 seconds, K-State baseball season comes to an end.
I'm Elijah at Kiefer Brothers Automotive in Beloit. Hot weather is here. Is the air conditioning in your vehicle nice and cold? If not, we can help. We have the training and equipment to service vehicle AC systems of all types, including the new refrigerant and late model vehicles. We offer same-day service on air conditioning with no appointment necessary. So don't sweat it out. Give us a shout. Fast, friendly service for your air conditioner can be found at Kiefer Brothers Automotive, just south of the courthouse in Beloit, or on the web at KieferBrothers.com.
Look out, Omaha. Here comes Virginia. Back-to-back seasons in the Men's College World Series.
Boo. K-State knocked out 2 games, didn't get to a third and deciding game. Friday, K-State was up 3-0 after 4.5. Virginia bounced back, went on the win 7-4. Saturday afternoon, Cavaliers were up 5-4 going into the 9th, and then added 5 big insurance runs and won 10-4. So number 12 Virginia goes to 46-15 on the season. Go to College World Series, second straight year. K-State finishes their very successful year at 35-26. K-State still looking for their first ever College World Series baseball appearance. College World Series is almost set, and it's a battle between the ACC and the SEC. Did you notice that? They're all SEC and ACC teams. The SEC at the College World Series will have Florida, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Kentucky. The ACC has Virginia, Florida State, North Carolina. And you're sitting there going, wait a minute. You said there's 8 teams, and that's only 7, so there's a chance. No, there isn't. Georgia plays NC State tonight, ACC versus SEC. So you could have 4 ACC, 4 SEC, or 5 SEC and 3 ACC. No Pac-12, no Big 12, no smaller school like a Dallas Baptist or a East Carolina's I guess I don't even know what conference they're in anymore.
Coastal Carolina, who won the championship.
Coastal Carolina.
I don't know. Been 4 or 5 years.
Nobody like that. Yeah. Nobody like that. So it's the big boys that are making it to Omaha, and the last spot decided between Georgia and NC State. And before you jump all over me, I said Florida shouldn't be in this tournament, and they're in the College World Series. What did I say that day, Dusty?
Doesn't matter what they do, they still didn't really earn their spot in the tournament.
Because somebody else could have maybe done the same thing they did.
Exactly.
Just because they were given the opportunity and then took full advantage of it and made the College World Series. And yes, they earned their spot. They were selected to the tournament, and then they earned their spot in the regional and super regional to get to Omaha. That is their job.
They earned their spot.
They earned their spot. For sure. But there were teams, I think, just as deserving that could have been in the tournament that had better records instead of 28-27 that Florida did. And so people immediately say, see, they got it right. And that's always such a cop-out. It's such a bunch of crap. Because the NCAA tournament, that bubble team made it all the way to Elite Eight. Well, they got that one right. Well, maybe the other team would have made it to the Final Four. We don't know. People immediately just assume that the other team would have lost first round. We don't know. We really don't. But Florida earned their spot. So Florida, Tennessee, A&M, Kentucky, Virginia, Florida State, North Carolina, and then either Georgia or NC State. North Carolina could have both in-state Division I schools. Boom, right there. Of course, they got more than two. But.
Yeah. I don't. That just doesn't sound enticing to watch all ACC and SEC teams coming. Maybe I'm going to be busy, so it's like maybe I'm glad I don't have to try to figure out how to watch all those games.
I agree.
I would have had to figure out how to watch K-State, but that didn't go well.
So I'm watching the Royals yesterday. I'm at the Wellness Center. It's 3-1 Royals, and it's the bottom of the ninth. There's 2 outs. Nick Lofton gets a double. MJ Melendez steps to the plate. He's hitting a .161. And I'm sitting here earlier watching the game, and I'm like, Melendez needs to go down to the Omaha. I mean, this guy is really struggling at the plate. And then this happened.
There it goes! Tie game! 9th inning! MJ Melendez has another huge home run in this series.
The Royals were 1 out away from extinction yesterday. They tied the game on the 2-run shot by MJ Melendez. Then we went to the 10th where we get the ghost runner, get that runner on second automatically. They bunt him over to the third, and then James MacArthur couldn't get it done. Mariners scored 3 in the top of the 10th. You're thinking, well, it's over. Then Hunter Renfroe hits a 2-run homer to start the bottom of the inning, cuts the lead to 1. And the Royals actually had the winning run at the plate as Kyle Isbell had a single. The Royals just never give up. I mean, they absolutely keep clawing. And we saw that on Friday night when they were down 7-0 before they even went to the plate. Mm-hmm. Down 8-0 in the 4th inning, 7-0 in the first. Came all the way back, scored 3 in the bottom of the 9th, and won 10-9. Pretty exciting game. They won Saturday 8-4, and then yesterday.
Ground ball, Bliss has it right there. Easy toss to first, and the Mariners win it in 10 innings. 6-5, the final score.
A lot of runs late in this game. There's a pitcher's duel between George Kirby of Seattle and Cole Reagans of the Royals. Cole Reagans has become the Zach Greinke of the Royals, just doesn't get the run support. Got a no decision yesterday, but Kirby was robbed of a win, too, because the bullpen blew it. Royals are 39-27, take 2 out of 3 from the first place Mariners, and they are set to open a 4-game set with the AL East leading Yankees, who are 46-21. That's at 7:10 tonight. And the Royals have 2 of the better pitchers going. Seth Lugo, 9-1, ERA at 2.13. He'll start against Carlos Rodon of the Yankees, who's 8-2, with ERA just north of 3. Brady Singer has been really good for the Royals on the hill tomorrow against the Yankees. So the first of 4, and that place will be packed because there will be Yankee fans that will invade the K. I can assure you of that. I went to a Yankee Royals game years ago, and there was a couple of guys that came all the way from New York to Kansas City, and they told me, and this is, I believe it too, they said it's cheaper for them to buy airfare, pay for a hotel, buy tickets, go to the Royals game in Kansas City than go to a Yankee game in New York where they live.
Yeah,
that's what they said at the time.
Absolutely.
That's what they said at the time. I don't know if that's still
wild
true
that
or
it
not.
would make sense, but it does.
Yeah.
I mean, just based on, when you heard about the ticket prices when they first opened the new Yankee Stadium, even, and I'm guessing inflation continues to make that worse. So it probably is let's just fly to KC. Let's go to that game.
That may hold true
wherever
still,
around the country.
Right. Might still hold true for him. Matt Cottrell and his team never give it up.
We're a tough team to play. I mean, we do a lot of things well, and these guys deserve a lot of credit for that. I mean, they work hard. They try to get better every day at what their skills are and work on polishing their weaknesses, and they don't back down from the work. Some of it's uncomfortable, but then you see the fruits of their labor when you get into those situations. You just keep competing.
Royals are solidly in the playoffs as the season ended today. They'd be the second wild card, and they're on pace for 95 wins. So I would say things are going well. The thing that people didn't anticipate is the Guardians being so dog good, because most people thought 39-27 after 66 games. Well, surely the Royals will be in first place in the weak AL Central, and the AL Central has been better than people anticipated. But that's why they play the games and don't leave it to the pundits to pick what's going to actually happen, because they're usually wrong, including myself. So the Royals are 39-27. Bobby Witt Jr., you have to argue that he could be an MVP candidate, what he's been doing this year. And the Royals are good. Matt Cottrell, I think he got the inside lane to win the Manager of the Year award in the American League. So when you suddenly become good, you start winning awards. There's a correlation between winning and getting recognized for your achievements. There's no doubt about that. This is the Sports Ticket brought to you by Kiefer Brothers Automotive in Beloit, your home for fast, friendly auto repair. The NBA Finals, Game 2 last night.
White on the drive. Now to Brown. 6 to shoot. Jaylen Brown into the paint. Layup. He banks it in.
7 seconds remaining. The Celtics are going to take a 2-0 lead in the finals. A smothering defense here in the fourth quarter.
Celtics only shot 3 of 15 from 3 in the first half, and they're down 3 at halftime, 54-51. They finished the night 10 of 39 from 3, but led by 14 with 3.5 minutes to go, and then things got a little dicey at the end. And I've talked about this. If you know anything about the NBA, I've said it a few times before. I even said it back when it happened, that when the Bucks decided to, fire the coach only a few years after winning a title, and then they felt like they had to go get Damian Lillard to get them over the top when all they needed is a healthy Giannis would probably be helpful. They got rid of Drew Holiday after they traded for Damian Lillard. Actually, they traded Drew Holiday to the Blazers to get Dame Lillard. And I said Drew Holiday is just as good a player as Dame Lillard. He just doesn't, he's not as sexy as Dame Lillard. He doesn't score 30 a game, but he's a better defender. And I think he's a better fit if you want to win a lot of games and win a title. Dame Lillard hasn't won jack squat in the league. And I love Dame Lillard. I love watching him. He's a heck of a player. And he didn't have the supporting cast around him in Portland. This year, had a better cast around him. Giannis was hurt in the playoffs, and Damian Lillard got hurt a little bit. And he's an aging star. I mean, he's getting up there a little bit. Drew Holiday, then all of a sudden, next thing you know, he goes from the Bucks to the Blazers, and then the Celtics are smart to jump all over trading for Drew Holiday. And the Celtics win. Drew Holiday last night, 26 points, 11 rebounds, double-double, 11 of 14 from the floor. And a good friend of mine in Kansas City, he sent me one of my best friends. He sent me a text. He said, the Celtics are too good, and so forth and so on. And I said, Holiday is so underrated. And then 2 minutes later, after I sent that text, Holiday gets a deflection and forces a steal and hits a three with a span of 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there we go. The dude's a winner. The dude is an absolute winner. And last night, he had some help. Jaylen Brown had 21. Derek White had 18 and 4 threes. Jason Tatum only 6 of 22 from the floor, but had 18 points, 12 assists, 9 rebounds. Porzingis had 12 off the bench. Luka had a triple-double for the Mavs, 32 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. He had 23 in the first half. Looked like he wore down in the second half, 9 in the second half, just 3 in the fourth quarter. The Mavs are 6 of 27 from 3. The role players are 2 of 17. And the Celtics are up 2-0 as the teams head to Dallas for Game 3 coming up on Wednesday night. Now listen, here's the easy thing to do. This is, and I guarantee all the talking heads are doing it because they don't learn from history. Now, they may end up being right about this. This is the easy, lazy take to make right now today is the series is over. The easy, lazy take to make right now is the series is over. The Celtics are too good. They're too athletic. They're too deep. They got too many guys that can hurt you. Let me just rewind just a couple years ago. The Phoenix Suns won the first 2 games of the NBA Finals on their home floor. And you know what people were saying? And I think I even said it. The Suns are just, they make the plays in crunch time. This is Chris Paul's year. Booker's outstanding. And the Bucks need more help.
And it didn't look like they had an answer for DeAndre Ayton in the first 2 games. No,
Ayton was awesome. I mean, the Suns looked like they were going to sweep the Bucks. They were dominating. They were winning. I mean, I don't know dominating, but they were in control. They won the first 2 games. They go to Milwaukee. And I remember saying on this very show that if Milwaukee wins the next 2 games, Milwaukee wins the series. And I didn't have a lot of people support my argument, but I said, listen, if Milwaukee, I said at the time, the Suns are really good, and I think the Suns are going to win the series. But the Suns have to win Game 3 or 4 in Milwaukee because I felt that there could be a shift in momentum. And that's exactly what happened. Now, sometimes my predictions are good, sometimes my predictions are horrible. Like picking K-State to win in 2, and then they lose in 2 to Virginia. So I missed some. But and it seems like my NBA predictions are usually better than other sports. I don't know why. Although so far, not looking so good. I got the Mavs in 7. But I'm not going to quit on that prediction. You could say I'm doubling down and I'm a moron. And you know what? After Wednesday, Celtics up 3-0. Yep, I'll probably, technically I still have a chance. But I probably look like a moron. But here's the thing I'm going to tell you. Learn from history. The Phoenix Suns were up 2-0. And they lost in 6. They won the first 2 at home. What did the Celtics do? They won the first 2 at home.
Yes.
All they did is protect home court. You're sitting here and this is the thing that people jump to conclusions about. And they just, it's lazy. It's a lazy take. It's just too easy. It requires no brain function hardly at all. Well, the series is over. The Celtics won the first 2. Yeah, but the Mavericks haven't even played at home. Listen, I would listen more to your argument if the Celtics won both games in Dallas, although I'd still argue it's not over because guess what? The Nuggets lost the first 2 games in Denver, And they were up 3-2 in that series. And people said Denver was dead after 2 games. They were wrong. Then they said the T-Wolves, they don't believe anymore, is what Draymond Green said. Wrong. They won game 6 and 7. 7 was in Denver against the reigning world champions. The Miami Heat had or Dallas Mavericks had a 2-0 lead on the Heat one year. They won the first 2 in Miami. And it was like, the Heat they're cooked. Dwayne Wade, Shaq, Mavs look too good. I believe that was I think that was a series. And the Heat were okay. They came right back. And they won the series, I believe, in 6.
Yeah.
It's 4 straight again. So here we are. Are the Celtics the deeper, better team? Yes. As were the Suns 2 years ago, in my opinion. And as were the Mavericks that year. But all you need sometimes is a little rest, which there's plenty of rest between games in the NBA Finals. I hate how they string it out. But I understand they want their players to be healthy, or as healthy as they can be. All you're doing now is you're going to Dallas, and Dallas needs some home cooking. If Dallas wins Game 3, and trust me, this is so predictable. It's as predictable as the sun coming up and then coming up in the east and setting in the west. It's as predictable as the sky is blue. All right, every day you look up, it's pretty much going to be it's blue. I mean, yeah, there might be some gray skies, whatever, but it's just this is as easy to predict as anything. It happens every year. It happens in any professional sports series by all the people that talk about it for a living, and they just get into their talking points that are just regurgitate. They can be robots, and they don't have. They just say the same thing. And here's what they do: first 2 games, teams up 2-0. Oh, series is over. And then all of a sudden, the Mavericks win Game 3, and they blow out the Celtics. Well, the Celtics still control, but boy, the Celtics better watch out because they could be in deep trouble if they lose Game 4. Wait a minute, you told me the series was over after 2. You said it was done. It's finished. Then, if the Mavericks win Game 3 and 4, all of a sudden, Mavericks going to win the series. Then the Celtics win Game 5. Oh, Mavericks are toast. Mavericks win Game 6. Well, Luka's going to win Game 7. This is just the zigzag, the yin and the yang, the yo-yo that it is. This is what happens. If the Celtics win on Wednesday, they'll be up 3-0, and everybody will crown them. No team has ever come back from an 0-3 deficit in NBA ever in the playoffs. Someday it's going to happen. It'd be funny if it happened in the finals, of all things. But if a team goes up 3-0, it's been automatic in the past that team wins the NBA series that they're in, up 3-0. So history tells us that if the Celtics beat the Mavericks on Wednesday in Dallas, then the series is over, although technically it's not. If the Mavericks look good and win Wednesday, we have a series. And that's what I'm cheering for. I just want a series. I don't want a sweep. I want a series. I want to see the Celtics pushed. The Celtics, I don't think, have been very pushed very much in the playoffs. Part of that is catching some breaks with guys being hurt. Part of that's them playing very well. There is no doubt, when we were breaking down the series before it began, I said if Porzingis comes back, the Celtics have 4 guys that can hurt you at any point in time. And that's not even counting Al Horford, who can light you up at times. He had 7 threes in a playoff game last series. And I'm not even counting Derek White either. I'm talking Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, and Holiday. And Derek White's not too bad. He had 30-some in a game this year in the playoffs as well. I mean, the Celtics have more guys, and we said it before the series, the Celtics have more guys that can score 20 in a game. What guys are going to score 20 in a game for the Mavericks? Kyrie, Luka? I don't know.
That's the list right now.
I don't know. But the Celtics, I just gave you 4, and I'd argue there's 5 or 6 that can get them 20. So the Celtics, and this is absolutely a perfect example to illustrate my point. Last night, Luka was fantastic. Well, he was pretty good. He got tired. He had 32 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. He made 4 of the Mavs' 6 3-pointers. You could argue he was the best player on the floor last night, although Drew Holiday was pretty good. Jason Tatum, the star for the Celtics, had 18 points on 6 of 22 shooting. And who won the game?
Celtics.
Well, how's that possible? Luka had this huge game, and Tatum had an off night, 6 of 22, because Tatum has more help. Jaylen Brown, 21. Drew Holiday, 26 points, 11 rebounds, a double-double. Derek White last night, 18 points, 4 3-pointers. Porzingis, 12 off the bench. And like I said, Al Horford does a very good job for the Celtics as well. I mean, the bottom line is that the Celtics are the deeper team. They got guys that can score 20 at any point in time. In fact, they really do have 6 if you count Horford. And so when you sit here and you say the series is over, which a lot of people are going to say that today, The series is not over, in my opinion, because of a couple reasons. One, role players, more often than not, play better where?
At home.
At home. So the Celtic role players played great. The supporting cast was terrific. That's to be expected at home. Now you go to Dallas. Another reason why the series I don't think is over is that the Celtics, I've seen them do this many times the last couple of years. Maybe they'll be different this time around. They take their foot off the gas. I've seen them do it. And I could see them laying a big fat clunker on Wednesday. Not saying they will, I'm saying they could. And they do shoot a lot of threes. And where do you shoot threes better? At home or on the road? Usually at home. So the Mavericks were 6 of 27 for three last night. The Celtics weren't great from three last night. They're great in game one. Celtics probably aren't going to shoot the ball quite as good in game three in Dallas. Dallas is probably going to shoot the ball better in game three in Dallas. Dallas is going to get better play from their role players more than likely, a little bit more comfortable at home. And I don't know if Kyrie Irving's going to keep playing this poorly. I mean, he's a great player. I think I have a hard time envisioning he's going to play 4 straight bad games. The Celtics have done a hell of a job on him. They are defending him with bigger guys. The Celtics are the better defensive team, no question. Kyrie was 7-18 last night, 0 for 3 from 3. He's not getting into the lane as much as he'd like. He's not hitting some of those floaters. He has not played well so far. So it does really feel like it's Luka versus the entire world. And last night, it was Luka versus the entire world, and they lost by 7. And they had it within 3, if not for a great block shot from behind with Jaylen Brown and Derek White on what looked to be a layup for P.J. Washington, or it would have been a 2 or a 1-point game. So all those things went against the Mavericks, and people are going to, and they still were right there, and people are going to tell me that the Mavericks are toast. All they need is Luka to do what he did and have Kyrie play better, and they're right there. Or all they need to do is get Max Kleber to hit a couple of three-pointers, get P.J. Washington to play well, although he had 17 last night. Derek Jones Jr. hit a couple of threes. Derek Lively, he's an energetic player, probably even more so at home. And that's all it takes. Is Tatum going to keep shooting the ball so poorly? Probably not, but I'll bet you that Drew Holiday doesn't shoot 11 of 14 on Wednesday. I'll bet you that Jaylen Brown more than likely doesn't go 8 of 15 on Thursday. Now, Tatum's probably going to be better than 6 of 22. So, Game 3 is going to be very interesting. And Jason Kidd used some psychology before last night's game, and it was smart. And you could argue this is it's a comment of desperation, or it's just to get under the skin of the Celtics. But I thought it was a smart thing to say. And here's why. Even if it's not true, which I don't know. I think you could argue it. A lot of people think Jason Tatum's the best player on the Celtics team. I'm not convinced of that. I think Jaylen Brown's pretty damn good. They're basically 1A, 1B, and I think on any given night, they can do whatever.
I know who I'd pick if I was my team trying to figure out who I wanted to be on my team right now.
And Jaylen Brown really had struggles when he went to his left last year, and he's improved in that area this year. You can tell that. And Jaylen Brown, to me, is just as good a defender or better than Jason Tatum. Brown's improved his three-point shot. I think they're both outstanding.
Absolutely,
you're splitting hairs. You really are. It sounds like you'd take Brown.
For sure. For my team's the Spurs, and so that I think it would help my team. But
okay.
There's other teams that maybe Jason Tatum would help you better.
Right.
But I would definitely take Brown.
But we're kind of splitting hairs as to who's the better player, and it really shouldn't matter. And Jason Kidd threw it out there and said Jaylen Brown is their best player. And he's trying to get Tatum off his game. He's trying to cause a little bit of a problem. He's trying to get the media to ask these questions. Mm-hmm. It is a very smart sports psychology play by Jason Kidd. It's very smart. You got nothing to lose by doing this. And as Shaquille O'Neal said before the game last night, he said, listen, if you get caught up in who's the best player on this team, the Celtics are toast. He said Jason Tatum doesn't need to worry about that. Neither does Jaylen Brown. They just keep playing the way they do. Doris Burke said on the broadcast last night, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown realize that they can do less and achieve more. And that's true. They can take less shots and still be a good team. And what's happened in this series is a lot of people are going to focus on Jaylen Brown being the better player than Jason Tatum. That's what some people have said. And people get caught up in the offensive side of things, although both those guys have played well defensively. Tatum had a big pick of Kyrie Irving last night. Jaylen Brown had a huge block from behind. But Jason Tatum also had 12 assists. Mm-hmm. Because what he's doing is he's learned that instead of just bouncing the ball forever behind the three-point line and jacking threes, which he does every once in a while, he'll drive it, draw two people, and kick to wide-open three-point shooters. So you can sit here and say Jaylen Brown is the better player, and maybe he is, although I don't know. But Jason Tatum is being very unselfish, and he's doing less to achieve more by not shooting the ball as much or not forcing the ball as much. And in some cases, he's setting up Jaylen Brown. So people in Boston may say, well, Jason Tatum is our guy, and Brown is his Robin to Tatum's Batman, or they're both Batman, whatever. But Shaquille O'Neal said, listen, I didn't know at the time, and it was a big deal to me, and it hurt us and our team. And he won rings with the Lakers, 3 of them with the Lakers, 1 with the Heat. Shaquille said, during that run, I was never our best player. So he's referring to Kobe as the best player. He said I was the most dominant player because he had stretches of dominance. But he said I wasn't the best player on my team. And if you get caught up in worrying about who the best player on your team and you have some jealousy within your team, you're going to lose.
You're not at this point. I mean, you're not in the finals up 2-0, ready to win a championship. If this would have come in well before now between Tatum and Brown, if there was going to be a rift.
You would think so. But Jason Kidd has nothing to lose by throwing it out
absolutely
there.
Not.
That's
absolutely
my point.
Not. No.
Trying to get it out there. And maybe Tatum pressed a little bit. He was 6-22. But the series, a lot of people think it's over. To me, it's not. To me, the series isn't over and the series really hasn't begun until a road team wins a game. That's the old adage. Well, all the Celtics did was hold serve, and they did a great job holding serve. Now the Mavericks' job is to hold serve. On paper, as I said before the series began, before we made our predictions, on paper, you should pick the Celtics. They have more talent. They're the deeper team. They have better supporting cast. They're better at hitting three-pointers. That doesn't always mean they're going to win. I thought the Suns were the better team a few years ago, and they were for 2 games, and then they lost the next 4. If the Mavericks win Game 3, all of a sudden Game 4, a little more pressure on the Celtics. Mavs win both games, send it back to Boston. Now all the pressure's on Boston. So let's not write the Mavs off just quite yet.
Yeah, I want to add something real quick. I know there's still quite a few things that we need to get to, but the one thing that you said while you were talking about it is it looked like Luka slowed down as the game went on with his points and stuff like that. He has been very, at times in the first 2 games, you could tell he's tired. And Luka is not a guy that shows that very much.
I don't know how he should be tired. He had 7 days off between the last series.
I'm just saying
series.
Because of what happens during the game.
Yeah,
they're coming at him exhaustively that he gets there's points where you can tell he's drugged.
Well, he's got to work so hard on offense.
Yeah, exactly.
Because other guys aren't hitting shots.
And he feels like he's got to take it over too.
And he's got to play defense on the other end.
Absolutely. And I think there's the thing that people don't realize about today's NBA is that points are up all across the NBA. So one thing I want to point out is it doesn't maybe look like the Celtics defensively throughout the regular season were anything special. Let me give you an idea. The Pistons were the worst team in the NBA. They were 14-68 and averaged 110 points a game. The Celtics have held 11 of in 11 of the 16 games. The opponent has not hit triple digits
in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, and that is in today's NBA is an unreal accomplishment and an unreal way of saying how good they are defensively and how they can. I know they haven't seen some of the best players.
I was going to say the star
series.
players on every team has been hurt, and now Luka supposedly is banged up.
Yeah,
but he's always banged up.
But to think that they've got 4 games where they held them under 90, and so I don't care who the NBA players are. I mean, when you're playing defense like that, and the way the league is played right now. When I say the worst team in the league that doesn't have good players averaged 110 points a game in the regular season. Right. And I know things go down in the postseason, but I mean the way they play team defense together, and if Porzingis can be a part of that, it just makes it where sometimes it feels impossible for the team to score in the paint.
And I go back to the guy I mentioned at the very beginning of this segment. The Celtics were not the best defensive team last year. You add Drew Holiday. He is one of the best. Yeah. He is one of the best defensive guards, and he's done a good job on Luka. And then Tatum's guarding Irving at times, and Brown.
And they don't have to worry about switch because they can get on Luka. Those guys can cover him for whatever they need.
They don't have to double as often, and if they do, they got length to give him problems, and they can also rotate guys on Luka and Kyrie to wear them down.
Yeah.
And I think Kyrie's looked a little tired too, to be quite frank.
Oh, for sure. But but it's just the way they're playing.
The Celtics are younger, quicker, faster right now, and playing smarter.
You know, Porzingis aggravated something last night in the second half. So my whole thing is if he stays out there, it's tough to see them having success offensively with what he brings to the table. But if he's not there, then that could change things too.
No, I agree with you. So Celtics up 2-0 Game 3. We got to wait all the way to Wednesday for that. Dan Hurley, the head coach of UConn. I'm going to double check here. Nothing's come down yet today, but according to reports from people at ESPN, and take that with a grain of salt, Dan Hurley's going to make his final decision. Of course, they were saying that J.J. Redick's going to be the next head coach, and he works for him, and they still didn't get that right. Dan Hurley will make his final decision about whether or not to take the Laker head coaching job today. Now, if Dan Hurley stays at UConn, nothing changes. If he leaves to go to the Lakers, and I think the Lakers have to pay him $10 million a year to get him to go, which is, I'm sure they'll be willing to do that. If Dan Hurley goes to the Lakers, he's only 51 years of age, so he can go to the Lakers, flame out, cash in a whole bunch of money, and then go back to college and have the job that he wants. So, to me, there's not a major risk to Dan Hurley other than you don't have a chance to do a three-peat.
Yeah.
You're giving that up because UConn's won the last 2 titles. But if he leaves and then you suddenly have a coaching carousel that's going to start moving again, and you're going to have all these players at UConn that got 30 days to decide whether they're going to stay or they're going to transfer and get in the portal. And if you're not going to have a coach, unless the UConn's already, if UConn's smart, they already got a successor lined up ready to go for Dan Hurley somehow, some way. Although that's tough. What happens if Dan Hurley decides to not leave? It's a tough spot for UConn to be in at this time of the year. I don't feel too bad for them. They did win the last 2 titles. But it's a tough spot to be in if you're assistant coaches on that staff, if you're a player on that team, if you're athletic director. I mean, come on, Danny. I need to know because I got to run and I got to go get somebody. And then he goes get somebody from another school. And then that school's going to look for somebody. And then those kids are going to have a 30-day window to transfer. Next thing you know, we might be going all the way to mid-July before we have all these situations filled. And that's not even talking about the star players that UConn has that may say, listen, I don't know who the next coach is going to be. I'm not going to wait to see who the next head coach is going to be. I'm out of here. I'm hitting the portal. And all of a sudden, Bill Self calls or Jerome Tang calls or John Calipari at Arkansas, I think, could benefit from this more than anybody probably because I think he has a few spots open. And you just go get these kids. And you might even kick some kids that you already grabbed in the portal and say, I don't know if we can, let's coax them back out because this kid's better. And that's I would say not the beauty. It's the ugliness of what we have now in college sports when it comes to that. I'm not blaming the players. They have the right to, if a coach can leave anytime they want, a player should have the right to leave at the end of the season or before the next season and during the summer, even if they committed. You can say, well, they're supposed to honor their commitment. Well, isn't a coach supposed to fulfill his contract that he signed just last year? Dan Hurley just signed a 6-year, $32 million extension before this past season. So don't give me this crud, and I hear it from people. Well, what about commitment nowadays? There's no loyalty anymore. Well, okay, I agree with you, but please put the coaches in the same discussion. Mm-hmm. Because if you're going to sit here and give a coach a pass and then rip the players, you're being a hypocrite. You're not seeing things very clearly. If the coaches have the freedom to move and not have to fulfill their commitments after just signing a 6-year contract 1 year into it, then why does a player have to honor a 4-year commitment 2 weeks after he signed when his coach then left? So make that make sense for me. So we'll see what he does today. Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark lost off the basketball court. She lost off the basketball court for the first time in a long time. Her head coach, Christy Sides, spoke yesterday for the first time since news broke that the number 1 overall pick did not make Team USA's final roster spot for the 2024 Olympics in Paris next month. While Clark was even-keeled as always in her reaction, Sides gave away her star's immediate reaction to the news. She got the call on the bus and she texted me to let me know, and I just tried to keep her spirits up. The thing she said was, hey, Coach, they woke a monster, which I thought was awesome, said Coach Sides. Sure. An official roster announcement not expected until tomorrow, but news of Clark's submission came out shortly after midnight on Saturday. Full roster followed a few hours later. As expected, the team is made up of MVPs, all WNBA stalwarts, future Hall of Famers, Asia Wilson, Breanna Stewart, Alyssa Thomas, to name just a few. I see a lot of uproar here by people. There's 2 ways to look at this. I'll get your viewpoint on it here. One, I think the immediate take without thinking it through is, what a travesty. How can Caitlin Clark not be on the Olympic team? That's insane. But I would tell you that there are 12 players better than her in the WNBA right now, if not 20. Who's the most popular player in the WNBA? Well, that's not even close. It's Caitlin Clark. For crying out loud, they moved a basketball game between them and the Mystics in Washington the other day from a 4,000-seat arena to a 20,000-seat arena, and they sold out 20,000 seats for Caitlin Clark. Okay? So people say that Team USA and women's basketball, they could have any combination of 12 players out of 40 they could choose from, and they're going to win the gold easily. Fran Fraschilla said it the other day. I don't know. Maybe he's right. Probably is right. They've been dominating the Olympics for a long time like the men used to. So they're going to win anyway. So that's the counterpoint that people say in favor of Caitlin Clark. They say, listen, your WNBA is red hot right now. People are excited about Caitlin Clark. She's the face of the WNBA, whether the veterans and stars like Breanna Stewart and others want to acknowledge that or not. She is the face. The people that reason they moved from a stadium for 4,000, 20,000 seat arena, did they do that for Angel Reese or Asia Wilson or Breanna Stewart or Diana Taurasi or Sue Bird? No. So that creates some jealousy, yes. And you could sit here and say maybe there's a little bit of that in the selection process, or the star players WNBA and made it clear that they didn't want Caitlin Clark on the team and they want to keep that quiet. And I think there's a possibility that's true. But if you want to grow the women's college basketball game and you really want to bring attention to your sport, which you're already getting attention, then the promotional part of this piece would be that Caitlin Clark is on this team without a doubt. And now you got a lot more people that are going to tune in. And if you're NBC, you should have been shoving. I mean, let's be honest. And we talk about it's all about money. I'm actually surprised Caitlin Clark isn't on the team because I can't believe the TV networks didn't force people to put her on the team. So in a way, I'm kind of cool with it because at least they went with the 12 best players they thought is deserving. Is Caitlin Clark deserving of being on the Team USA team? Some people say absolutely. I'd say no because she's played in how many games? Okay? So, but I understand both lines of thinking. The line of thinking is, she's not one of the top 12 players right now. She's the most popular, but that doesn't mean she should be on this team. She's young. She'll have another shot at it in 2028, and we're going to go with the best players because the goal is to win the gold. The comeback argument is we're going to win the gold anyway. Put Caitlin Clark on the team. It'll help women's basketball. You'll get huge ratings. It'll create even more popularity for the sport worldwide. So why not do it? It's a missed opportunity by not having her on the team. I understand both points of view. I will say this. Caitlin Clark being on the team, if NBC forced that to happen, she's got to be on the team. You would be leaving off a person that was very deserving or more deserving than Caitlin Clark. Does anybody give a crap about her? No, nobody would. And nobody across the country, for the most part, would either. And all the media is saying that it's a missed opportunity, this would be great to promote the game, are a lot of people that never even paid attention to the game in the first place until this year, and now are all about promoting the game when they could have been promoting it for years. Caitlin Clark is the face of WNBA. Should she be on an Olympic roster? That's your decision, your opinion. As a player, I don't think she did, because there's more that have done more and are more established that deserve to be there. As a promotional tool, and would it hurt would it hurt the Women's USA team if she was on the roster? Of course it wouldn't hurt them. You could say it could be a little bit of a distraction, but it would help grow the game for the women, probably more so internationally. You remember the Dream Team, how big that was, or the men? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying this would be that big, but it is a missed opportunity. But at the same time, if you're trying to get the 12 best players on Team USA, your goal is to win the gold. And, of course, you're not saying Caitlin Clark's not good enough to help you win the gold. But if you're just saying there are people that have been here longer in the NBA than a few weeks, these are the 12 we're going with, I don't have a problem with it. But I do understand the argument, boy, you had a chance at really promoting your sport because Caitlin Clark is the most notable player, whether she's a rookie or not, in the WNBA.
I'm not going to argue both sides because you presented the sides, and it's pretty clear what they are. One thing I do want to say as I start this is the WNBA does not decide the 12 players that are going to this thing. Right. People don't understand that on the social media comments. It's USA basketball. Yeah. It's not even it's not connected at all to the WNBA.
NBA, by the way, the men's team's no different. They have a committee.
Absolutely.
Jerry Carlangelo is the one that really took that over after they lost with college players, and it became a bigger thing. Then they had Coach K to try to win the gold and so forth and so on. They have a committee as well. So this is no different than the men's team when they select players.
Yeah, it's because the comments on this is just another way the WNBA stomping on Caitlin Clark. It has nothing to do with the WNBA. This is Team USA basketball. Right. Are there players in the WNBA that might have talked to Team USA basketball and said, hey, let's not deal with this distraction? Here's my take on it. Caitlin Clark should not be on this team. She's not played her way onto this team in my eyes. She's not going to be an impact player on this team. She will have almost no impact on a critical situation on the floor of whether this team's going to win or lose. This team's not, and this team has not lost a game in the Olympics since 1992.
Yes.
The USA women's basketball team. I think the take of you'll win with whoever you put there is a lazy take that should never even be brought up. USA basketball is not making a team just to say, hey, I'll just put whoever on there and we'll win. They're making a team that they feel is the top 12 players that they can choose from.
Right.
Why would you not?
Why wouldn't you take the best 12?
Your job is to take the absolute best team that you can field. I don't care if you're going to win all these games 100-62. I don't care. Maybe you'll win one game 89-82.
The goal is to win a goal.
If you are just going to go out and win every game. The goal is to win a gold, and I think for the USA, when it comes to basketball, with what we've seen on the men's side, the goal is to pummel the opponent.
Well,
don't even make it a situation where the other country even has any kind of chance to win a gold medal in this thing.
What do you think got us in trouble on the men's side? We got to a point where we said the same thing. We can put a college team of 18-year-olds out there, and we're going to win. All of a sudden, we started losing, and all of a sudden, we started reacting. Yeah. Oh my God, I got to get Jordan in the pros to save the day.
Yeah.
And they waited too long because they thought the same thing that people are saying today about the USA women. You can put any combination of 40, we're going to win it. Well, that's what they said before the men started to lose with the college team.
Before the dream team, But then they got lazy again, and stars stopped going, and then in 2004, Argentina won the gold, and so now the U.S. is taking a bronze home, and they're mad about it because they got lazy again. And so the goal after that, what was the goal of the Redeem team? Put together the best ever players in this era.
The best 12.
All of the best players that are playing right now. And it's a lazy take to say, Breanna Stewart was on the team when she came in and was in college or whatever. And it's like, Breanna Stewart is now one of the best players in the WNBA, and is taking a spot. There's WNBA players that are taking these spots. There's not a college girl that got this spot above Caitlin Clark here. This is not the same thing. There have been years where, you did want to take a player from the college level that probably was better than some of the WNBA players. But this is not just Caitlin Clark. This is what I've tried to tell people a couple times when we've talked about WNBA. They've got elite athletes already in this league that you don't know because you haven't paid attention to it. There are not Caitlin. I'm with you. There may be 20 players in the WNBA right now that are better than Caitlin Clark. Just because she's bringing the popularity to the sport doesn't mean she's the best player in the sport.
Right.
It's just like, let's think about that, and also let's think about the backside of it. And apparently, this is according to sources, some veteran players have said this, and I don't necessarily disagree that if she's on the team, her biggest supporters will become a distraction because she's not playing.
Yes.
And they will.
Yeah,
and whether that's a good or bad reason to keep her on or off the team,
point
that those veterans are pointing out, it's the truth. She is not going to have an impact on this team very much, and she's not going to play a lot. No. And so those people are going to be louder and louder and louder and louder. Why would you, if she's...
Why do you put her on a team and not play her?
If one, she's not what you feel is the top 12, then don't put her on the team. If two, you're worried about a circus coming along with it, just avoid that.
And she thinks she's number 10, 11, or 12 on the team.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like they felt there's 12 better than her for sure, and they don't even have to worry about it. But then there's going to be backlash leading up to it. But I would rather have the backlash leading up to it than just have all this whole distraction around the team once they do go to the Olympics. And I actually know most of the names that are on this team, and it's like, these players are better than Caitlin Clark, and they've earned this spot.
Caitlin Clark in her rookie year in the WNBA so far, in 12 games, she's averaging 16.8 points, shooting just 37% from the floor, 33% from three. She is averaging 6 assists, 5 rebounds a game, and she is averaging 5.5 turnovers a game.
Yeah, it's gone down because it was 6.5 last week, so you obviously struggled with that.
So those are not numbers that say you're one of the best 12 players.
Not 100% at all.
Yeah. And I know sometimes numbers can be misleading. The NHL playoffs, so finally Caitlin Clark lost off the court. She's been winning all the time for the last 2 or 3 years, it seems, so she finally loses. They've been losing a lot on the court because the Fever are on a great team right now, but I think she'll be just fine, and she'll be a star, and she'll be the face and the leader. She'll be the face and the leader of the team in 2028 as long as she stays healthy.
I mean, it's like you did wake a beast, and now she's just going to try even harder, right?
And that's what makes the greats so good. NHL Stanley Cup Finals.
So for the second series in a row, Sergei Bobrovsky is going to pitch a shutout. And an identical final score as to Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final against the Rangers.
Well, let's see. Team for Canada hasn't won the Stanley Cup since, I believe, 1992 or 93. The Florida Panthers score a goal in each period. They win 3-0 over the Oilers in Game 1 Saturday night. Game 2, Panthers up 1-0 is in Florida again tonight at 7 o'clock on ABC. The French Open, Novak Djokovic eliminated because he had to withdraw due to a torn meniscus in the knee. Opened the door for a new champion there at the French Open.
The legend of Carlos Alcaraz is solidified. His first Roland Garros title.
Alcaraz trailed 2-1. Could have easily rolled over. He had a 5-2 lead, blew it in the third set, lost 7-5, responded, won the last two sets, 6-1, 6-2, his third Grand Slam title. And he's won one at U.S. Open, one at Wimbledon, one at French Open. He just needs the Australian. He's got the career Grand Slam already, and he's a very young dude. And the Women's Championship?
Yeah, Iga Swiatek, she dominated. Straight set win, no problems there on Saturday. Her fourth French Open championship, third in a row. And she's got 5 Grand Slam titles. She's 23, and her progression here has been pretty amazing. And so she could be one of the all-time greats if she keeps on the pace that she is.
In golf, they should rename the tour the Scotty Scheffler Tour, as long as he's not arrested. Scotty Scheffler back in form after a couple of recent hiccups, won for the 5th time his last 8 starts. He wins the Memorial. 5 wins are the most in a single season for any PGA Tour player since 2017 when Justin Thomas did it, and there's still a lot of events left on the calendar. Scheffler now has the opportunity to join the rare 8-win club. He has set a new PGA Tour earnings record for a single season already. He collected another $4 million for winning the Memorial. He has now claimed over $24 million this season. That's $3 million more than what he earned last year when he set the PGA Tour earnings record. Now, we should point out, the PGA's increased their purses because of Live Golf, so you don't have to win as often and get to where you can break the record for most money won as a player. But the point is, Scotty Scheffler is by far the number 1 golfer. You could argue nobody should be labeled number 2 because he's that far ahead of the pack.
I have not been watching much golf in my entire life, but man, Scotty Scheffler's name is all over the place right now, and you can tell that he's leading it, and he's the top of the game.
You know, we talked about it recently about the WNBA, the incident with Caitlin-Clark being shoved to the ground, this and that during a basketball game, and so forth and so on. And people are like, we got to clean this up. That's not good for the sport. And I've said, well, it's not good if Caitlin-Clark gets hurt, but otherwise, it's great for the sport. Brings attention to it. We talk about the NASCAR fights, after post race or whatever, or they're crashing in each other. People tune in for that, so they like to see that. With hockey, we love to see the fights, and sometimes we like to see a lot of some mix-ups and dust-ups in baseball or football or whatever the sport may be. And so we've been talking about golf. They need a face for golf, and this is a guy who's been dominating. And we talked about you need to jump all over this. The PGA Tour needs to jump all over this. They've got the best golfer in the world. It's not even close. Probably the most dominant run since, I would say, Tiger Woods, possibly. Not to that level yet, but he's on pace for it. Although there are some golfers who don't compete in every tournament because they're in Live Golf. You can put an asterisk by anything that you want. But the fact that he got arrested, and people are like this is a horrible thing. Well, it was for Scotty Scheffler for a period of time. It actually was terrific for PGA Tour because this is a guy that had been number 1 prior to being arrested in what seemed to be a misunderstanding. And charges have been dropped, by the way, on that whole thing when he was just trying to get to the PGA Tour Championship. So Scotty Scheffler is winning a whole bunch, and yet people don't really know him across the world, except people that are in golf. All of a sudden, he gets arrested. It's the top of the news on CBS News, on our radio station, across the country. It's on all national morning shows. It just goes crazy, right? It goes viral and so forth and so on. And now everybody knows who Scotty Scheffler is. Now, after that, he's still winning. So that is another feather in the cap for the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour needs to immediately put together, as long as Scotty Scheffler's cool with it, some kind of mock skit as a commercial to promote their tour with handcuffs involved. Seriously, take advantage of the unbelievable golden opportunity you got by accident. Play off of his arrest. Listen, play off the fact he got arrested. If Scotty Scheffler's cool with it, if you're Scotty Scheffler, let's go ahead and sign up for some endorsement deals involving something playing off him getting arrested. A little coy, little one-liner that makes people laugh. The PGA Tour has not been good other than Tiger Woods, and Tiger was just one of a kind. In regards to promoting the PGA Tour, they have a gift here that's been handed to them thanks to that arrest, believe it or not. And nobody's talking about Live Golf hardly at all, and hasn't for a while. Only reason Live Golf's mentioned is because all the money they throw at people. But Scotty Scheffler's in a dominant run, and he was recently arrested, and now everybody knows who he is. Let me tell you something right now. The PGA Tour should be screaming and yelling and knocking on the door of Lorne Michaels of Saturday Night Live. I'm serious. This is not a joke. They should be pounding the doors of Saturday Night Live.
Skit and a commercial. I'm like, nah, Saturday Night Live. Let's do that.
They need to go to Scotty Scheffler and say, hey man, we're going to talk to Saturday Night Live and Lorne Michaels. We think you would be great. We need you to do Saturday Night Live, even if it's just a couple of skits. Be a guest on a skit or two if you don't want to be a guest host. Scotty Scheffler should, and they could have all kinds of jokes and have skits off his arrest. You don't think that would be killer? That would be awesome. I think I should be the marketing PR guy for the PGA Tour. I've got this great idea. Maybe they've already thought about it. Scotty Scheffler should be on Saturday Night Live at some point here soon. Now, the problem is he plays in tournaments, and that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So he can't do it probably until he has a weekend off. And if he's winning every week, why would you take a week off? You just keep cashing in all these checks. But, man, I'm telling you, you want to really reap the benefits of something that people point out as negative but actually turns into a positive, it's his arrest. Charges were dropped, so, hey, he didn't do anything horrible. And everybody knows him now. Plus, he's winning all the time. He's not Caitlin Clark on a team that's 3-12 or whatever. He's actually winning everything. It's an individual sport, so it's okay to bring attention to yourself because you're an individual, not on a team. And you want to take your shots at Live Golf. You have a lot of fun taking shots at Live Golf on Saturday Night Live as well. What a great idea! Thank you. I'm glad I thought of it. But you need to hit while the iron is hot, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if the PGA Tour is good enough to do that or not.
It doesn't look promising with their recent history, but maybe they'll prove us wrong. Who knows?
Or maybe they've already done that. And Scotty Scheffler
doesn't want a part of it.
I'm not doing it.
The other person has to agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, there's the ticket, and there's your grand idea. Book it. It's going to happen.
State, regional, and national sports talk on your schedule. The Sports Ticket Podcast. Subscribe via Apple, Google, and TuneIn Podcasts or sunflowerstateradio.com.